Hey friends, before we jump in, I just want to say this. This episode came straight from my heart. I recorded it directly following a big revelation with my coach. And instead of waiting to polish it like I usually would, I decided to share it as is. It's raw, it's honest, and it's a part of the shift that I've been personally walking through, from devotion to discernment, from doing to guiding. And I hope it meets you right where you are. Welcome back to Don't Waste the Chaos. I'm your host, Kerri Roberts, and today's episode feels a little different for me. It feels more like an unfolding than a plan. A few weeks ago, something my coach, Howe, said to me. She's my EFT coach. She's my intuitive mentor. Something she said stopped me in my tracks. We were talking about my vow of devotion, and we'll get more into this today, but how sometimes without realizing it, we attach our loyalty to people or outcomes instead of God. And when she said it, I could feel something like unlock. It made me think back on so many moments in my career, in leadership, in consulting, in my family, even in my parenting, when my devotion to people looked like faithfulness to them. But it was faithfulness to people, maybe not faithfulness to God. And it was rooted in wanting to fix, to protect, to please. And so in today's episode, I want to explore what happens when our devotion to people starts to override our devotion to God, and how I've been learning to reframe that through something I'm calling holy resourcing, which is HR. And I've been on this journey to try to figure out how what I'm learning in my personal life intersects with my professional life. And what I've come up with is HR to me is not human resources. That's a played out term. And so many people have tried to say it's people operations, it's human capital management, all these different things. And what I've learned is that HR to me is truly holy resourcing. So if you've ever wrestled with balancing compassion and clarity, or if you've wondered how to lead with both heart and your holy discernment, this one is for you. And I'm kind of jumping off the deep end, and really, I wrote myself an outline after my session with Kelly because I was like, I am going to have to talk about this, but I'm really going off the cuff. I've given myself about 10 bullet points here. So I'm really going to just speak off the cuff, and I'm not typically an external processor. So we're going to see how this goes. And I appreciate you riding the wave along with me, because part of this really is leading into, I have had this book on my heart. And you might think, if you've been listening to me, like, oh yeah, the HR Easy button, it's behind me on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube, but that's not it. I knew I wanted to write a personal book, but every time I thought about writing a personal book, I have been so career oriented for the last 20 plus years. And so all I kept thinking was all of the HR stuff that I've got in my mind. And, as I wrote the HR book, which ended up being 3 books, one of which I've published, but 3 in a 3-part series, I've really been thinking about what is the personal book though? I thought for a while, I've got this interesting journey. It could be memoir style. I had a traumatic brain injury as a child in 4th grade. And some of those things have come up through therapy. And so I thought maybe that was it. And then last year in 2024, I had a psychiatrist tell me that she believes I'm on the spectrum, and I tested on the RADS assessment, and I tested pretty high on the spectrum. And so I thought maybe it was autistic leadership, like I didn't really know what it was. And I feel like I'm finally getting closer to understanding what the message is that's coming out of me. And if you are on a healing journey, you might be having a similar experience where you feel like, you've heard people say, oh, it's like the unpeeling of an onion. And I've heard that so many times that it's actually annoying. It's become a buzz phrase or whatever, like peel the layers off the onion. I don't really want to hear it anymore. But the reality of it is, it has been this like great unwinding for me, where I'm leaving a season and I can feel it, and I'm coming into a new season, and I'm coming into it with anticipation, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where it's headed. And so I'm just kind of unpacking some of this. And it feels like to me, the collective, like people, not everyone, right? I can see not everyone's on a healing journey. I can see not everyone's on a healing journey, but there are a lot of people who are exploring, who are researching, who are navigating, who are in therapy, who are reading, who are seeking, who are maybe coming back to their faith for the first time. Maybe they're on a spiritual journey and they think it's not God or Jesus, but it's spiritual, which for me, it is God and Jesus. And I have thoughts on a spiritual journey outside of God and Jesus, because in my opinion, it is God and Jesus. It's just a different interpretation, which is fine and healthy and okay, just not the path I'm on. A lot of us are on this thing. We're on this path, whatever you're calling it, or even if you're labeling it at all, maybe you don't even recognize you're on it. But now that I'm putting words to it, you're like, I am kind of navigating something. A lot of us are on this. And I've been on it for a while now. Whether it was, I'd say it really started for me when I had some failed professional ventures. And many of you probably wouldn't look at them as failed. And they were learning experiences for sure. And I am a positive outlook person. I am an abundance mindset person. So I'm not saying they're negative, but the reality of it is I had some failures professionally, whether it was my fault or someone else's, or whether it was just the unlocking of the future. However you want to look at it, however I want to look at it, because it's my path. But I started this rub, and I've been on this journey of first trying to figure out who I want to be professionally, and then figuring out who I was professionally, and then being told that's not it, and then trying to show up differently professionally, which drew me into the wrong place, and then showing up my full self professionally, or trying to, but then realizing that was causing a rub, and then just trying to find the right spot financially, and that's not it, to finally being on this, oh my goodness, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I have been an entrepreneur since I've been a child. This is me. I am her. I just didn't know it. I just didn't know what it looked like. I had to go through this journey. I had to go through this path to get here. And once I got here, owning it has been a whole new thing, because it's very humbling. Entrepreneurship is very raw. It is a journey that is unlike any other. And I would say I would choose this over and over again than working in someone else's organization. That's not a good fit for me. By the way, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. So don't tune out. I'm not selling you on entrepreneurship because it's not for everyone. It's really for the effing crazy in so many ways. It really is. It's a wild ride. But throughout all of this, trying to navigate, oh, I'm strong and people are drawn to me for that. Oh, but other people aren't. And if they're my boss, then that's not good. Now I have to show up some way different. And I'm strong and people are drawn to me for that. And that gets me recruited. But then that's messy and it doesn't fit into this system. And then I'm strong and then I get recruited because of it. And then it's rubbing people the wrong way. I need to show up differently. But I'm not going to show up differently because, gosh dang it, I'm the chief, blah, blah, blah. So I don't show up differently, and it's very disruptive. It's been like this roller coaster. And it has been since I left the insurance industry, really, is when this really started to, okay, I've got some things to heal from. I had some trauma in the mortgage industry, and really it was from the lack of structure. I was recruited to bring structure. I was bringing structure. It was rubbing some people the wrong way, but really I had a female leader that was unhealthy and protecting herself. And I wasn't in alignment with her, but I feel like she wasn't in alignment with the ownership team. And I loved those guys. And me holding that line ultimately led to my demise. It was really unhealthy. And I had never worked for a female leader that was healthy. And so I thought the answer at that time was to show up as someone else. Show up as a man, actually, is what worked the best for me. And, as you can tell, if this is the first time you've ever heard my voice, I have a deep voice. I have broad shoulders. I've got big feet. I've got big hands. Like, I have masculine traits, both physically and mentally and emotionally. So it wasn't a huge stretch for me. Like, I grew up on a farm with a very old school father and a brother and a very subservient mother who played the quintessential farm wife role. And so I was like, oh, yeah, I like being a man. This works well for me. And even though I had a child and nursed that child and did a lot of feminine things, I kind of kept that at home. And in the workplace showed up masculine. And so there's been an unraveling of that. Like, how do I show up as a woman in the workplace and what does that look like? And that doesn't mean dropping the masculine, because it's a God-given traits, but also letting the feminine come to bear. So it's been this great unraveling. And it wasn't until I really started to learn how to feel feelings and then also feel feelings in my body and then calm my central nervous system and not be so tightly wound all of the time. I've been going through this process. And through this process, one of the biggest things that came up to me and like what we're going to talk about today is this vow of devotion that showed up for me. And mainly this vow of devotion has showed up for me because I have had employees on my team, people around me, clients that I've signed contracts with that were not in alignment with me. And I would say I'm a very discerning person. And so I just felt like why am I not having access to discernment in these certain areas? Whether it's allowing people in a friendship circle with me over the years that are really frenemies, that I feel, oh, well, I have so much to give and so much to offer them that they'll warm to me over time. And at a minimum, they don't, but they can learn and grow from my presence. And it's okay. I've got broad shoulders. Like, I don't need things from them. And same thing with clients. Like, I signed on a client a couple of years ago, and this client was asking me to essentially turn myself inside out, do roles in the organization that were like not in alignment with my business at all, shelf my family to a degree, do a decent amount of traveling, overnights, long hours, working inside of a building that didn't have windows, being uncomfortable, not nourishing my body, considering getting hyper focused on my looks, a big focus on vanity, things that just were not in alignment with me, drinking alcohol, just all this stuff that I was walking away from largely. But then with this client, I was still very attached. I was allowing it, even though I felt I'm not in alignment with this, but I was doing it anyway. It was just bizarre. And then bringing people into my team who can't really help me carry the weight, but they really wanted to like work with me. And I was like, am I being flattered? Why is this happening? Because I'm bringing people that I'm having to tell every single thing what to do, have a high level of oversight. And really I'm paying to buy back my time, but actually all I'm doing is mentoring these people and not really buying back my time and being really bogged down, but then feeling like that was my calling, running my business like it was purpose driven or like a ministry instead of a business. And you have to have purpose. I'm not saying that. I feel very connected to the purpose of my business, serving small to mid-sized businesses, from helping them build out their HR foundation. That is a no-brainer to me. But in my business, I was bringing people along who couldn't really carry the weight with me, but I was giving them every opportunity. So I'm giving you those examples not to vent, but to help you see how you might be out of alignment as well. And you might be a really strong person. You might have a lot to give. You might have broad shoulders like me. You can carry a lot. But what I've learned is I am trying to be loyal to God by overcommitting myself to people. And that's causing me to get out of balance. And it's making other people sit in God's seat. And I'm starting to connect the dots for clients, for employees, for friendships. Really, it's something that I want you to ask yourself, because maybe this episode found you because you need to process through it too. What happens when our devotion to people starts to override our devotion to God? And if you're doing things out of being a very committed and reliable person, but then you get out of balance, whether you're unhealthy or prioritizing things that aren't a priority to you, or allowing people to hurt you in the name of, well, I'm committed to the, I committed to this. I signed a contract, whatever it is. Or on the other side, maybe you want to be viewed as a professional, be taken seriously. So you'll work yourself ragged to prove something that nobody cares, that nobody's watching you. No one's watching you more than they're watching themselves. People are just wanting to get what they need. And I don't mean this in a dark way, but it really wasn't until I had a client who was like, I'm not getting what I want from you, so I'm going to cut the contract. And the wild thing is, this contract we had already had in place was a larger contract, but this person was hurting financially. So they cut the contract. And I honored it, even though we were in a contract. I was like, yeah, I totally get it. Like, I never want to make anybody be out of whack in their business, even though we had a contract. I let them step back. And then I started doing less because they had cut the contract. And then when this person wasn't getting what they wanted from me, then they were mad and they wanted to cut the contract again. And I was like, this is literally not on them. This is on me. I have put personal commitments above the business. And I think I'm doing it to be a godly person. But really, my priorities are all over the place. They're out of whack. It's been this amazing, amazing reflection. So I want to unpack this revelation that I've had through this process. And really, the revelation is the difference between devotion and discernment. I thought that I was lacking discernment, and it was pissing me off. It's pissing me off. I would say I'm a highly discerning person. I'm a highly intuitive person. I'm a highly empathic person. But yet I thought something's broken here because I've got these really strong gifts that God has given me, but for some reason they're not working. They're broken. And the revelation that I had was they weren't broken. My vow of devotion runs so deep, whether it's within me, something that I've learned either through my childhood, or it literally could be generational. I don't know. And I don't even know if you believe in that. I don't know if you believe in generations that are impacting us now. I don't know if you believe in past lives. I don't know if I do. But this is something that I'm unpacking myself. And I've got this really heavy line that I toe when it comes to devotion. Gosh dang, if I say I'm going to do something, I don't care if I've got pneumonia. A couple of years ago, I had pneumonia. I was so sick and I was hosting something. So I got up and put my big girl pants on and did it. And you might say, oh, well, if you really had pneumonia, you wouldn't have been able to do it. I don't know how to express to you how much I will put my health at risk. And this is not, I'm not asking for a gold star. This is gross. This is a crazy thing about me. And really, it draws in people who will take advantage of me. It draws in the wrong crowd. And in the name of honoring my word and honoring my commitments, I have drawn in people who will take advantage. I've also drawn in the right people too. It's not all the wrong people. But I have allowed things in my life in this name of devotion. And I've kind of labeled it as professionalism. I am the utmost professional. And being a professional, to me, in the past, I'm unpacking this, but in the past, being a professional was doing what you say you're going to do, showing up when you say you're going to commit, and honoring a contract or an agreement, come hell or high water. I'm saying if I told you I'm going to be somewhere and the creek outside of my Northeast Missouri farm is up, and I go the opposite direction and it's too muddy, I'm going to walk back to the house and I'm going to get my side-by-side because we've got options, folks. We're going to make it happen. Instead of me just saying, maybe today's not the day. If I told you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get my kayak out and I'm going to wear a wetsuit and I'm going to pack my clothes in a waterproof bag. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to get frostbite on my toes. That's the type of person that I am. And you might be saying, well, gosh dang, I want to work with you because I love that. And there is an element to that that will always stay with me. But what I've been looking at through meditation, through therapy, through tapping, through all these things is learning how to honor myself and let those intuitive pings come through. Because sometimes God, for me, the universe, however you want to look at it, is saving you from something. And sometimes it's yourself, but sometimes it's from other people. Or sometimes it's just not the right day. Or sometimes there might be a car wreck that's going to happen and it's just trying to help you not be the one in it. There are things at play in this universe that we are not in charge of. And sometimes we need to really listen, to sit back and listen to our gut. It was a pretty emotional moment for me when I realized that my loyalty to people has been my expression of loyalty to God. I was trying to express the strengths and the giftings that God has given me. I was trying to express those through my loyalty to people. And what I've learned is when I do that, that's putting people on the pedestal where God deserves to be in my life. And I lost my breath when I realized it. It just took my breath away. Man, that was not my intention. And I think when we look as Christ followers or otherwise, we look at the 10 commandments, the big 10, whatever you want to call them, and we think, well, I'm not doing those, so I'm doing pretty good. But our church, I go to a Presbyterian church, a little Presbyterian church. It's the sweetest little place in Hannibal, Missouri. The oldest church in the city. Rumored to be a place where Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, went. We did a sermon series on the 10 commandments, and the 10 commandments are so much more, there's so much more depth to them. And I'm going to run through them right here. Let's test my knowledge right now. And it's no test because I know it inside and out because I learned a song in Bible school called the Perfect 10 church camp. And gosh dang, I can memorize these. So number one, we've just begun. God should be first in your life. So no other gods before me. Number two is the idol rule. Those graven images aren't nice. So we're not going to bow down to anything else. For me, this is including people. Number three, God's name should be never spoken in jest. So don't use God's name in vain. Number four, the Sabbath's for our worship and our rest. Honor the Sabbath. Take the time. God rested. We should too. Number five, we should all strive to honor our father and mother. Number six, don't get your kicks from killing one another. Thou shalt not kill. Number seven, life is heaven. When you're true to your mate, don't commit adultery. Number eight, don't steal or break this rule for goodness sake. Don't steal, don't lie. Number nine, don't be the kind who goes around telling lies. Number 10, don't covet when you see your neighbor's house or wife. Not coveting others. So that's the list that God insists we stay away from these sins. That is why we memorize commandments 1 through 10. That is my little preview of church camp back in the day. But I am working on re-anchoring my devotion upward. My devotion, this vow of devotion was spanning. Got a 6-foot wingspan. I've got long arms. This devotion was spanning across the earth to people. And really, when I say my reputation is in the Lord and I don't have to worry about that, and that's why I'm such a confident person and I'm self-assured and all of these things, that was true, but I was letting my devotion go to everyone else. And it's kind of leaving some table scraps for the God I worship. And I just didn't realize that. So I'm looking at things as holy resourcing, and I'm doing this reshift. It's serving people, but serving them through structure, through stewardship, and through spirit. Not putting them in God's place, not letting this devotion be bigger to them than it is to myself or to God. And I love the way that this plays out in my business and in my HR work, through integrity, through clarity with clients, through compassion. My company values are salt and light. Yes, that's my company name. And you could think, Kerri, could you do better than that? No, I actually can't. That's a verse in Matthew 5, and I actually can't do better than that. So salt is wisdom, truth, knowledge, clarity, being honest about exactly where a client is. But light is that path forward, giving hope and encouragement. So in my business, I can use that really high value I have on integrity, being professional, being reliable, being consistent, being a woman of my word, offering clarity through that. And then compassion, that hope, that path forward, that light, all of that can coexist without me getting out of kilter. And this ties to my major faith integration. I'm not called to separate my work from my worship. Those are the same thing. And I think this has been this major movement in my life, and I see it in so many other people's lives. It's like we are church attending people. We might read our Bible, we might have a devotional, but how are we really, really, truly, really integrating our faith into our day to day? And I had a season of life that was like, gosh, I guess, everybody needs to leave the secular world and become missionaries. That's not it. Some of us need to tithe, right? Big amounts. All of us need to tithe biblically. But there's some of us who are called to be stewards of much financially. And we need to give back to our communities and to our churches. There's some of us who are called to that. That is me. I am someone, and my husband is someone who is able to steward a lot financially and then be generous with that and be discerning with that. That's one of the ways that's always integrated for me, and we've always known. Now I'm just trying to attach the emotional side of me and what I'm committed to my work. There are other Christian professionals that I know are feeling the same pull toward wholeness in this way. And I just want to encourage you that being a leader does not mean being a scaffolding to others. And my coach, I mentioned her earlier, she's excellent. My coach was helping me see, we are all vibrating. And, I might get a little woo-woo on you here, but this is just science. So I don't, this isn't woo-woo to me. This is the way we're made. If you know that you're breathing oxygen, and if we were on another planet, we literally wouldn't have the oxygen that our specific body is made and needed to breathe. And literally the molecular makeup of our world is sustaining us. Then you wouldn't be weirded out by the fact that the sun and the moon, and it's not all crashing down on us, and we are able to stand upright, and we've got gravity, and so we are obviously vibrating. There is energy that pulses through us. There's light waves that pulse through us. We know we can go outside and stand on the ground and get grounded. These are things that people are starting to understand. We're vibrating, folks. Okay, this is old news, but new news to some. When we put out our scaffolding, our emotional, our mental, our physical scaffolding for others, and we carry them, sure, we can come alongside people. But if we are carrying other people, whether it's our employees, we're doing their work for them, whether it's our clients, we're doing too much, we're getting out of alignment with ourselves, and then our clients are depending on us, and then they get pissed when we draw a boundary, whatever it is. It's our family. We're allowing someone to treat us poorly. And then when we draw a boundary, they're like, what's her problem? It's because we've been the scaffolding for others. And then when we say, oh, I need to stand on my own 2 feet. I need to work on me. We're like, that looks selfish. It feels selfish. And to others, it's like, they might come crashing down if you've been their scaffolding, and then they're mad at you. And you need to not worry about them. You need to start thinking about why it is that you were being the scaffolding for them. When you hold out things too much for others, we can't vibrate at our level. So then we're out of balance. And then we're trying to hold other people and they get out of balance. What we need to do is drop the scaffolding and release them to vibrate at their own level. And maybe they're low vibration. That's a them problem. We can't, people can feel me walk into a room. I know that. You might, sense the way that I am just from listening to my podcast. You might say, she's soothing to me, or she gives me power or confidence. That's my vibration. I'm passing it over to you. And I love to do that. I love to do that for others, but I'm not going to be the scaffolding for others. I want to release others to receive what they can receive and then go put it into play in their life. It's exciting to think about. It's exciting to think about that you can be in your own power, your own presence, your own strength, your own alignment. And by you doing that, you're allowing and encouraging others to do the same thing. It's a really exciting time. Where is your devotion guiding you? Or, in my case, in the past, where is your devotion blinding you? This idea of holy resourcing, serving people through structure, through stewardship, not selflessness, through structure, through stewardship and through the Spirit has really become the foundation for how I move forward in leadership, in business, and in my faith. It's reshaping this next season of the podcast, of my next book, and even the language that I'm using in my business and how I'm showing up from a personal perspective. So as you take a step back and look into your own work and your own life this week, I want you to ask yourself, where is your devotion guiding you? And where might it be blinding you? Because realignment, because surrender, because growth, it can all feel like chaos at times, but the work is worth it. So don't waste the chaos. Embrace it. Until next time.